Good evening, everyone. So in the last two classes, we would have dealt about the anatomy of larynx and the physiology of larynx. So in the chapter on anatomy of larynx, we have seen about the nerve supply of larynx. So that time itself, I would have mentioned that the nerve supply of larynx is very important because it has major impacts on the functions of the larynx as well as functions of the voice, how the production of voice, everything depends upon the nerve supply of larynx. So just brushing up the anatomy of the larynx only in terms of its nerve supply. So if you remember, we would have dealt about the recurrent laryngeal nerve. The recurrent laryngeal nerve is the most important nerve that supplies the larynx because it supplies all the muscles of the larynx except the cricothyroid, which is supplied by the external branch of the superior laryngeal nerve. So even if the vocal cords has to move, then it is the function of the recurrent laryngeal nerve that makes the vocal cords move. So the importance of the recurrent laryngeal nerve is in the larynx is very important. So called recurrent laryngeal nerve, why? Because it arises around at the level of the thorax and then it rises up to the larynx. So the right and the left recurrent laryngeal nerve have different courses, that also we would have mentioned earlier. So the right recurrent laryngeal nerve hooks and comes at the level of subclavian itself, whereas the left goes at the level of arch of aorta. So if we look at the lesions of the right and the left, if there are any lesions near the heart or near the aorta or any aneurysms, atrial enlargement, everything can cause compression of this left recurrent laryngeal nerve. So what we are going to deal in this class is what is the effect of this nerve palsy. It can either get compressed or it can get cut, or the nerve supply or the vascular supply to this can get cut. So in turn, how does it affect the functions of the larynx, especially the voice? Because we know the movement of the vocal cords produces the voice. So the movement of the vocal cord means that the muscles should move for the vocal cords to move. So the muscles are supplied by the nerve. So proper functioning of the nerve is needed for proper voice production. Not only voice, what and all is getting compromised because of this nerve palsy, we are going to see in detail. The other nerve that we have to keep in mind is the superior laryngeal nerve in terms of the sensory supply to the larynx. So in the last class itself, we would have mentioned that the sensory supply to the larynx is given by the superior laryngeal nerve's internal branch. So above the level of vocal cords, the internal branch of the superior laryngeal nerve gives sensory supply. So in case when we are eating something, we have a foreign body sensation, and if you cough it out, it is because your internal branch of the superior laryngeal nerve is functioning normally. Below the level of vocal cords, it is supplied by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So compromise in this nerve supply can cause compromise in the sensation of the larynx. So in case if patients are complaining of cough on taking any food, that means the sensory supply is cut off. That means the internal branch of the superior laryngeal nerve, which in turn is a branch of vagus, so that is cut. The sensory and motor supply to the larynx that I mentioned, above the level of the vocal cords, it is supplied by the internal laryngeal nerve, which is a branch of superior laryngeal nerve, which is again a branch of vagus. Below the level of vocal cords, it is supplied by the recurrent laryngeal nerve in terms of sensory supply. If we see the motor, all the muscles of the larynx, which closes the vocal cord, which opens the vocal cord, which gives the tensor strength to the vocal cord, everything is supplied by the recurrent laryngeal nerve except the cricothyroid. It is supplied by the external branch of superior laryngeal nerve. So keeping this in mind, now if there is any laryngeal paralysis, by laryngeal paralysis we mean the vocal cord paralysis. So keeping all these nerves in mind, there can be paralysis of recurrent laryngeal nerve separately, superior laryngeal nerve separately, or one side of the vocal cord is affected or both sides of the vocal cord are affected. Both the nerves and both the cords are affected. All these are combinations of laryngeal paralysis. So each of this has different presentations, each of this has different treatment methods, and that we will be seeing in this class.